The governor's signature today at the Chute School in Evanston makes Illinois the first school in the nation to roll out universal mental health screenings to its schools.
At a time when our kids are struggling with anxiety and depression more than ever before, it's our responsibility to ensure that young people have all the support that they need to get the help that they deserve.
The new law will require public schools to offer age-appropriate screenings to identify mental health concerns in students in the 3rd through 12th grades.
What's up, YouTube? My name is Ralph, and welcome to the channel. Today, we're going to be talking about Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker signing a new bill into law requiring mental health screenings for students 3rd through 12th grade. He has the support of mental health advocacy groups, but faces detractors as well, myself being one of them. Let's go ahead and look a little bit more at this before I give my 2 cents.
The process will be overseen by the Illinois State Board of Education, who will develop model procedures for districts. The screenings are designed to be confidential, and parents who don't want their kids to participate must opt out. The screenings will also connect families with the Beacon portal that helps them find psychiatric care in their communities.
What we have heard from families and from young people is that an annual check on sadness, worry, fear, and other problems would help to identify young people who need to talk.
The measure was approved earlier this year in Springfield by many Republicans, questioned whether the screenings were just another example of government overreach.
Universal.
All right, folks, there you have it. Government mandated shrinks in the heads of our kids. If this doesn't sound dystopian to you, I don't know what would. To hear a little bit more about it and to get a little bit more into detail, some things you might not hear in the news, we're going to hear from Christine McGovern, a former public school teacher with the Chicago district. And here's what she had to say about this.
We do need an increase in our mental health for our children. Definitely, we can see when we have a school system and a government that is telling our children that they can identify as a cat, there's an issue. Yeah. Also here in Chicago, we definitely have a problem because our governor has this push and this collaboration with Lurie's Children's Hospital. And they are the hospital that has this push to collaborate and to confuse our children to say that they don't have to have biology, that they can identify and change their biology, their gender. If you're a boy, you can be a girl. If you're a girl, you can be a boy. So what I have known and what I have found and personally experienced in CPS is the alienation of our parents. And that is the biggest issue that's going on here. So what you have to understand that this all starts with Merrick Garland, Merrick Garland's son-in-law. Merrick Garland was the attorney general for our previous President Biden, and his son-in-law is the CEO of a company called Panorama, and they are the second largest company that does our mental health screening. So this whole initiative for mental health is just a ploy to fund our NGOs. This isn't about the mental health.
Wow. Okay.
So there we have Ms. McGovern expressing her concerns not only about the ideology preferred by the founders, owners of the companies that will be providing these mental health surveys, screenings, whatever they may be, but also her concerns with the money and where that is going. Now, Panorama, the company, the second largest company in Illinois that's providing these surveys to school districts, is in fact owned by former AG Garland's son-in-law. His name is Alexander Tanner. He goes by Zan Tanner. And this all just kind of looks like USAID all over again, just on a state level. We've got high level politicians funneling taxpayer dollars to ostensibly their friends, or at least they're those in the same ideological camp, let's say. I don't know that there's a direct relationship between Governor Pritzker and Alexander Tanner, or even necessarily Merrick Garland. But we can say that they're certainly on the same side of the ideological spectrum. They're both extreme left, and it seems not like a coincidence that all of these contracts are going to a company ran by a far leftist. I've got this article here from the New York Post dated October, what was it? October 13th of 2021. In this article, it says the education company co-founded by Attorney General Merrick Garland's son-in-law is facing fresh scrutiny after it was revealed the company supports critical race theory curricula while servicing 23,000 schools in the nation, costing taxpayers hundreds of thousands of dollars, while Garland cracks down on opposition to the ideology. And if you don't remember, I believe it says here in this article, Mr. Garland, in fact, was the one that greenlit investigations into concerned parents protesting critical race theory, transgenderism within their schools, the schools of their children. It says here Garland has been under fire this past week for his October 4th memo in which he tasked the FBI with investigating an alleged recent spike in violence against school staff amid backlash to CRT being injected into school curricula, though Garland's memo did not specify what those acts were. Amid criticism from parents and politicians over the intentions behind the order, some are questioning whether Garland has a conflict of interest due to his son-in-law's company. So this has already been an issue. And here it is rearing its ugly head again. And of course, the Democrats, Pritzker is so lacking awareness that he cannot see how such a bad look this is. After USAID, on top of everything else that he does, this is a bad look. Even if this isn't corruption, let's say that somehow they've never met. Somehow Pritzker had no idea that Tanner was in fact Mr. Garland's son-in-law and was was a co-founder of Panorama somehow. And in the most unlikely circumstance they don't know one another. It still looked like corruption. But they don't care. All that matters is that money and getting into your kid's head. And that brings me to the second point, which is isn't it convenient that the Democratic Party promoting transgender ideology for the last decade or so? Isn't it convenient that a far leftist governor largely contracts a company ran by a man who promotes that same transgender ideology? Um, this isn't coincidence. This is all intentional, and we all know that it's intentional. Um, I don't know if they're just so used to being able to hide behind the facade of mainstream media, or they're just that arrogant that they think that we don't see what's going on. But it's really obvious, and we all do know exactly what's going on. Now, that being said, these are exactly the type of people we shouldn't be letting around our children. You know, um, they have this concern about, oh, you're the gender expression of your child and this and that and everything else, and there was never any confusion for the vast majority of my generation growing up. There were those very few way outliers that everyone knew was a little different. And then you had the handful that, everyone knew, like, yeah, they're gay. They're gonna grow up to be gay. Um, but it certainly wasn't, I don't even know, there was nowhere near the percentage of transgender kids when I was growing up, or when my parents were growing up, or when their parents were growing up. Because it's a fake thing. It's a generated construct by these people who, you know, it's hard to say what they want and why they want it. Um, they say not to attribute to maliciousness what you can attribute to stupidity. But it's hard for me to believe that these people aren't malicious when you consider. Let's just look. Look, when you consider more than 40% of transgender adults in the U.S. have attempted suicide, it seems malicious. How you could look at this statistic and think that you're helping people by encouraging people to embrace transgenderism who otherwise would have likely just grown up to be gay. How you can do that and look at this number, I can only imagine that you're malicious. Because you can't be that stupid. You can't be so stupid as to look at the past and see that there were less transgender folks, therefore less people in that group attempting suicide. It's not like increasing that population has brought suicide rate down. In fact, it seems like it's probably gone up, and I believe it's probably because they're not addressing the actual problem. They're telling these kids who have anxiety, depression, gender dysphoria, autism, whatever, they're just telling them that they're just transgender and that transitioning will fix all of their problems. And when it doesn't, and they realize that they have permanently altered their body, um, I imagine that seems like an insurmountable hole at that point. And that's probably what leads to this. So yeah, I don't want state mandated shrinks poking around in my kids' thoughts, ideas, beliefs, inserting thoughts, ideas, beliefs into their heads that otherwise never would have been there. Because they're not helping. All they're doing is confusing already confused kids. That is my 100% belief. If it was really about helping kids, why not provide some sort of voucher system so that parents can take their kids to a mental health professional of their choice if they think they need to? You know, uh, the whole centralization of everything, like the centralization of our kids' mental health, is again just weird and dystopian. And then brings up another point: is how is this information going to be protected? Who's going to be in charge of that? Is anyone going to be held accountable if databases get hacked or what have you? I think not. They're governmental. No one will ever be held accountable if somehow your children's health information leaks. So this just looks like a bad idea all around. Like I said, if they really wanted to help, they could find a way to provide vouchers to directly to parents to be spent with the mental health professional they know. But then their buddies, their fellow Democrats, their fellow far left extreme nut job friends don't get paid. And it's that simple. Go ahead, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Let me know in the comments if you like the idea of state mandated screening for your kids or if you think this is a step too far. My name is Ralph. Later, Gators. We'll see you next time.